Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right, this is Jessie. I am so happy to be back with you guys. Yes, I miss you when I'm not here. Well, I was with you yesterday, sort of, but you didn't get a new episode of Jessie's POV. Unfortunately, I was a little too busy working on the stuff for the debate roundtable to do my own show. So I had to, sorry about the computer noises there. I am working on something, I'm actually having an argument with my printer if you really want to know the truth. But anyway, I was too busy working out the details for the debate roundtable, and if you didn't hear it, we had a whole bunch of us, and we were joined by guest Susan Swift, who hung out with us until the early hours. So we had a blast. We really did. And I was officially the producer, but I was more just the internet connection because everybody was doing a great job. It was a lot of fun. Now, got a couple of announcements. You know I've always got some station news. Alright, if you subscribe to Jessie's POV on iTunes, yes, I am on iTunes, you'll notice right now there's 2 versions of it. Make sure you grab the one with the KLRN radio tab, because the other one is an outdated feed. I just haven't had time to get deleted yet. Everything takes time, what can I say? So make sure you grab the one that has Jessie's POV KLRN radio. Alright. Start the printer. Alright. Sorry, I had to talk to Dave Brewer there real quick. There's been a lot, while this country was focused entirely on the debate. I mean, come on. Can you tell me this country was focused on anything but that debate? There was a lot of other stuff going on in the world. Believe it or not, there was. Believe it or not. So, I do have some stuff for you today, of course. Don't I always? Don't I always? Yep, that's the show prep, bouncing on my computer. Now, a number of you have commented on my audio quality. I have had some issues. I'm the first person to admit, stuff happens. I'm working on it. Now, you'll be happy to know I'm getting some new equipment in the next few days. Yes, I am, darling. I'm getting some equipment. So, because I always want to be able to produce the best possible show for you. And, of course, Mr. Frog had to make his appearance well known. And from the sounds coming from down the hall, the printer is finally cooperating. Yay, printer, and thank you, Dave Brewer. Alright, so, if you can't find a KLRN radio show, I'm going to tell you this right now. We're getting into Google Play on the podcast side. We haven't gotten there yet. You should be able to find all of our shows on iTunes. At least our shows. Our syndicated ones, they may go up for a little while under our main KLRN feed, but they don't necessarily stick around all the time. Sorry, I can't help that. We only have so much server space, and we can only keep so many back episodes around, especially when it's not our show. Now, for those of you who are always going, well, where's this, where's that? Alright. I know. We're sometimes a hard group to keep track of, because you can't just flick on your radio. You gotta grab your computer or your favorite internet-capable device and find us. I heard station manager Ann mentioning that she's going to be putting up a KLRN news page, including where to find the shows. And I also heard that she's going to be adding to every one of our shows pages where they can be a list of where they can be found, probably with links, knowing her. Now this is going to take some time. As she said, that means going through each and every show and making sure she's got an accurate link for all of it. So it'll probably start with some of the bigger shows, but we will get around to, I know she'll get around to everybody. And I know that Rick's probably going to help her, and I'm going to do what I can. I'm no web designer, folks. I shoot my mouth off. Come on. You think I'm a web designer? You got me confused. Yeah, you really do. You got me just a little bit confused if you think I'm a web designer. All right. Now, I have almost got all my housekeeping done here that I should have had done earlier, and I apologize. I'm still recovering from the freaking debate. And on that vein, I actually have some audio about the debate. You're probably not going to hear anywhere else. Let me get it queued up real quick. Won't take a second. My soundboard's open and happy. I got this audio courtesy of Press TV. And for those of you who don't know, Press TV is Iran's news. So, while I refill my coffee, why don't you take a listen to this audio clip about Iran and the debate.
The first official U.S. presidential debate kicked off with a standoff between the candidates over internal economic issues. But that didn't last too long. Shortly after, both candidates shifted their argument onto the U.S. foreign policy, undermining Donald Trump's lack of a plan to defeat Daesh. The Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton focused on supporting the current U.S. intervention in the Middle East as part of her plan to fight terrorism.
We also have to intensify our air strikes against ISIS and eventually support our Arab and Kurdish partners to be able to actually take out ISIS in Raqqa and their claim of being a caliphate.
Meanwhile, Trump slammed her support of the Obama administration's nuclear agreement with Iran, saying it will empower the Islamic Republic.
You look at the Middle East, you started the Iran deal, and now they're going to be actually probably a major power at some point pretty soon, the way they're going.
So how significant is this debate?
We unfortunately have produced two candidates who were among the least liked candidates ever in a presidential election, and so most people are voting against someone rather than for someone. It is very significant. There is about 20% of America who is watching this and thinking about using this as a criteria to make their decision.
According to the post-debate CNN polls, Clinton won the debate 62% to 27% against Trump. The first debate between the final candidates of the two major parties was a defining moment in this election campaign. The rivals will have two more debates before the November 8th election, when the next occupant of this house behind me will be determined. Eliana Khamisi, Press TV, Washington.
So, there you heard it. Yes, Iran News does actually have reporters in this country. Yes, they do. Now, those people are most likely not Iranians, because we don't issue visas to Iranians. All right. Let's see what else has been going on in the world. And I have to say, Dave Brewer delivered a whole stack more of my show prep. Thank you, Dave Brewer. All right. The Indian Prime Minister pulls out of a key summit that was supposed to be hosted in Pakistan, and it's the SAARC summit, which it's SAARC. Now, if you've never heard of this, it's called the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. And India has conveyed to current SAARC chair Nepal that increasing cross-border terrorist attacks in the region had created an environment that is not conducive to the successful holding of the 19th SAARC summit. In the prevailing circumstances, the government of India is unable to participate in the proposed summit in Islamabad. Modi was scheduled to attend the summit in November, which brings together 8 member states in the region. Tensions have been on the rise between the two arch rivals since militants attacked an Indian military base in Kashmir on September 18th, killing nearly 20 Indian soldiers. India says the attackers were from a militant group based in Pakistan. Islamabad has rejected India's claim as unfounded and premature. The attack on the army base has triggered a war of words between the neighbors. Modi recently accused Pakistan of exporting terrorism. Directly after the attack, Indian Home Minister Rajnath Singh called Pakistan a terrorist state that should be identified and isolated. Some Indian politicians and army veterans have called for a serious response to the assault, including airstrikes on purported training camps on the Pakistani side of the line of control. Meanwhile, Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has also accused India of unprecedented arms buildup along the de facto border, dividing the disputed region of Kashmir. Addressing the United Nations General Assembly on September 21st, Sharif said Pakistan would take whatever measures necessary to maintain credible deterrence. Sharif also blamed India for imposing unacceptable preconditions for potential peace talks over Kashmir, which has already witnessed an increase in mass protests over the killing of a pro-independence figure in early July. Alright, I've actually got some audio on this one. So, let me make sure I've got that queued up properly, and I'm pretty sure I actually do on this one. So, alright, let's take a listen.
Hello and welcome. You're watching The Buck Stops Here and I'm Barkhadat. Our focus continues to be on the response of India after the Uri attacks, and a big development. India has made it clear that the Prime Minister will be boycotting the SAARC summit that was to be held in Islamabad in November. Not just that, there is a virtual regional boycott now of Pakistan, as 3 other countries, Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Bhutan, have also backed the position that India has taken. In fact, in a statement, the Foreign Affairs Ministry made it clear that this was because of cross-border attacks and the constant interference in the internal affairs of member states by one country, meaning, of course, Pakistan. The SAARC summit now cannot be held because the rules of the SAARC Charter require the presence of every country. Listen in to what the Foreign Ministry spokesperson Vikas Swarup had to say.
Increasing cross-border terrorist attacks in the region and growing interference in the internal affairs of member states by one country have created an environment that is not conducive to the successful holding of the 19th SAARC summit in Islamabad in November 2016. We also understand that some other SAARC member states have also conveyed their reservation about attending the Islamabad summit.
All right,
Alright, so, as you heard, they are none too happy. Now, I know that sounded cut off because I quite frankly didn't want to hear the commentary. And I had a feeling neither did you. What can I say? I do make decisions on what to bring you. Obviously, that was from an Indian news source. And you know me, I'm always trying to pull in the interesting and the obscure sources that most Americans are not exposed to. Alright. I've got another interesting one. I wasn't able to get any audio on this, but I am going to reach out and try. Even if it's a 10-second clip that we'll never understand. Because I think this is neat. Radio station challenges ISIL, or the Islamic State, or Daesh, in Mosul. Despite the risks, Al-Ghad FM broadcasts information and commentary into the ISIL stronghold via frontline transmitters. Mohammed al-Musali sits tensely in his office on the first floor of a residential house in a guarded compound in Iraq's Kurdish region. Islamic State members may find this place. We cannot run that risk, he tells Al Jazeera, referring to ISIS. I'm from Mosul. I was there when ISIL came to town during the summer of 2014. I managed to escape with my family, but we lost everything. Musali is one of the founders and managers of Al-Ghad FM, which he describes as the first radio station to broadcast music and cultural programs into an ISIS stronghold 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. After his family fled Mosul in June 2014, leaving all their possessions, friends, and relatives behind, Musali said he began to feel guilty for those still trapped in the ISIS-held city. It was impossible to keep in contact with those people who were being held in the besieged area. I thought a radio could be the only way to communicate with my people, he said. Musali had studied engineering technology in the United States, quickly began to develop his plans, researching how such a station could be set up and learning the process as he went along. In March 2015, after obtaining authorization from the Kurdistan regional government, he and two other station founders went to a frontline location to install transmitters to broadcast the FM signal into ISIS-held areas. The location was only a few kilometers from ISIL outposts, he said. The hardest and most dangerous part was to reach those areas and put the transmitters near the front lines without being intercepted. We drove to the place in the early morning. I was thinking more about the distance between us and Mosul for the signal strength. It took them 7 hours to install the necessary transmitters, antenna, internet infrastructure, and backup electricity, he said. Asked about the station, KRG spokesman Safin Dazi told Al Jazeera, "We support all the initiatives to defeat ISIS in terms of military, cultural, psychological efforts. Military operations are not enough for the liberation of Mosul. It's necessary to have support from local population." When the station went live in March 2015, the reaction was almost immediate. With the transmitters outside the group's reach, ISIS banned the sale of radios in Mosul after just 1 week, Musali said, but with a radio already installed in almost every car in most houses, it was impossible to silence the airwaves. Instead, ISIL set up its own station in Mosul to broadcast on the same frequency and obstruct Al-Ghad FM, and that's spelled ALGHAD. He said, citing information from sources inside the city. But Musali and his colleagues were undeterred. After a few months, they returned to a different frontline location and installed more transmitters, giving themselves the ability to broadcast over multiple frequencies. They relied on the feedback of listeners to know whether they were being heard in the occupied city. Even today, ISIL is jamming one of our frequencies, but we were able to broadcast over their radio stations, he said. Al-Ghad FM broadcasts a range of programs from talk shows to health coverage to shows about food and sports. It also airs cultural programs focusing on pottery, religion, and entertainment. One program called I Am a Citizen allows people to vent their frustrations about everything from life under ISIL to more routine daily annoyances. In one recent episode, a woman named Fatima phoned in to complain about schooling. "My children have not been to school for 2 years. I hide them because I don't want them attending ISIL-run schools. I hope that when this is all over, they will be able to start studying again." There are also call-in sessions dedicated to major issues affecting Mosul, such as new rules or punishments imposed by ISIL. "We have our network of people inside Mosul who help us understand what is happening," Musali said. "If we know that ISIL has a new policy or punishing people, we bring this topic to the center of the show. We let citizens pour out their thoughts." Qasim Kadir, a project manager with the Media Academy Consultancy in Iraq, said Al-Ghad FM has broken a key barrier by becoming the only station to broadcast into Mosul after ISIS destroyed radios and satellite dishes inside the city. Al-Ghad FM is effective and influential for 2 reasons, Kadir told Al Jazeera. ISIL tried to overcome their frequencies, and this shows that they are doing well because ISIL fighters are upset. The second reason is the possibility for people inside to talk and be listened to. It's the only way to express themselves. Over the months, Al God FM has become a space where people from Mosul can talk freely about their problems, their hopes, and their dreams for the future. Some people are scared, and they are just passive listeners. But we receive many phone calls, especially from women who tell us about daily life in Mosul, Musali said, noting that the station also receives calls from ISIL members. In one recent incident, a caller purporting to be affiliated with ISIL warned, "I will be the one who will blow himself up when I come because we will reach you soon." Despite such threats, Musali told contributors not to cut any phone calls. Although the station only broadcasts in and around Mosul, listeners in Europe, Turkey, and the U.S. tune in via the internet stream. I'm going to have to find it. At the beginning of August, one man called in with a message for his mother. "Mum, if you're listening, I want to tell you I'm alive and in Sweden," he announced. According to the International Committee of Red Cross, more than 1 million civilians are still living under ISIS rule in Mosul. For many, Al God FM has not just become a way to break their isolation, but also a form of resistance. If I choose to stay in Iraq, Musali said, it's because it's our duty to do our best in order to bring back the city to what it was before all the communities coexisted in the same territory. What it was before, where all the communities coexisted in the same territory. All right, that is an awesome news story. I mean, come on, this guy is like, I don't care. I'm willing to face death threats. Upsetting ISIS is the right thing to do, and I'm going to work around it, and I'm going to make sure it happens. My, oh my, where has the time gone? We are at the bottom of the hour. That means it is time for us to take a commercial break. All right, will you hang in there with me while I take this commercial break, and I will see you on the other side. Gotta pay them bills.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
Down if you wanna, you can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
Alright, thank you for hanging in there with me over that commercial break. Alright. Now, while we're on that part of the world, I got a couple more stories I want to get to. This whole story, I'm not going to read the whole article, but I thought that one about the radio station, given that we're also radio online, I'm going to have to find that stream and mention it because that's just absolutely cool. I've got a couple more stories I want to get to from that part of the world. Then we're going to switch and check up on our old friends. Of course, Iran and North Korea. Who else would I be talking about? Taliban claims responsibility for an incident involving 2 colleagues assisting attackers in killing their comrades. At least 12 Afghan soldiers have been killed at a checkpoint in a Taliban attack that was facilitated by 2 of the victims' comrades in the North Kunduz province. Mohammed Danish, the Kunduz governor spokesman, said on Tuesday 2 soldiers helped the insurgents enter the base and then joined them in attacking their colleagues as they slept. The incident occurred on the outskirts of Kunduz city just after midnight on Monday. Aziz Kamawal, a senior local police commander, reported the 2 soldiers fled after killing 12 speaking colleagues in the Zahel Koman area of Kunduz. Danish said a manhunt was on for the rogue soldiers. Taliban spokesman Jabullah Mujahid claimed responsibility for the attack. He said Taliban fighters overran the checkpoint, killing all soldiers and seizing their weapons and ammunition. The outpost was among many forming a protective ring around Kunduz city, which was briefly captured by the Taliban a year ago. The first time the armed group seized a provincial capital since losing power in 2001 after the U.S.-led invasion. In recent months, the Taliban has stepped up attacks across Afghan security forces. Insider attacks have plagued both Afghan and international troops' ranks, depleting morale and causing mistrust in the ranks. Authorities estimate about 5,000 Afghan police and troops were killed in 2015, with an additional 15,000 wounded. NATO, which helps train and advise Afghan forces, warns the grid numbers are set to increase this year. So it's not all coming up roses over there. Alright. There was a jihadist jailed for destroying ancient shrines. Now, many of you know that ISIS has destroyed many of the ancient treasures of our world. Alright? And The ancient shrines were an integral part of the religious life of its inhabitants and constitute a common heritage for the community. Their destruction does not only affect the direct victims of the crime, but also people through Mali and the international community. And the shrines we're referring to, there's all kinds of shrines, but anyway. When pleading guilty last month, Mahdi said he wanted to spend his years in prison purging the evil spirit that took him. The verdict is a clear recognition that attacks on religious and historical monuments can destroy the culture and identity of a population and constitute crimes under international law. And this is according to Erica Busti, Amnesty International Senior Legal Advisor. Busti said that the International Criminal Court should continue to investigate crimes committed during the 2012 conflict in Mali. The time Mahdi has spent in detention since September 2015, his September 2015 arrest will be deducted from his sentence. The maximum sentence that Mahdi could have faced was 30 years. I mean, remember the destruction in Palmyra? When ISIS just went in and destroyed so many of the historic monuments and structures. And I'm sorry, that is a destruction of culture. It really is. I mean, we're talking the most spectacular legacy of Buddhism in the war-torn country was among the tallest standing Buddhas in the world. It was at 53 meters and 30. There was another one at 35. It had survived over 1,500 years. The Taliban considered them idolatrous and destroyed them with dynamite. Taliban, ISIS. I'm not sure that this article has it correct, but yeah, I'm sorry. I don't agree with destroying cultural landmarks, even if it's a religion I don't practice. The landmarks are precious. The Great Mosque of Aleppo, Syria, a World Heritage Site, originally built by 715 by the Umayyad dynasty. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I'm probably not. Ranked among the oldest mosques in the world, the epic structure evolved through successive eras, gaining its famous minaret in the late 11th century. It was reduced to rubble in the Syrian civil war. I mean, in this case, Syria is destroying its own stuff, but it's one of those things. The world is losing cultural sites over in that part of the region at an alarming rate. All right, now before I bounce over to our favorite friends, I do have a U.S. story, but just one. Obama nominates ambassador to Cuba. President Obama nominated the first U.S. ambassador to Cuba in more than 55 years, setting up a battle with the Republicans in Congress who opposed the renewed relations with the communist island. Obama picked Jeffrey De Laurentiis, who is already the chief diplomat in Havana, a job he's held since 2014. But now that diplomatic relations have been reestablished, De Laurentiis can be promoted to full ambassador. The new post requires confirmation by the Republican-controlled Senate, which could produce a partisan fight. Cuban-American Senator Marco Rubio of Florida and Ted Cruz of Texas, both Republicans, tried to limit funding for the U.S. Embassy in Havana and said they would oppose any ambassador named by Obama. De Laurentiis, a career diplomat, has served in Havana during the major transition of one-time Cold War foes to a new relationship that includes reopening embassies in Washington and Havana. Jeff's leadership has been vital throughout the normalization of relations between the U.S. and Cuba, and the appointment of an ambassador is a common-sense step forward towards a more normal, productive relationship between our two countries. The choice of De Laurentiis is the latest move by the Obama administration to increase ties between the two countries. Obama and Cuban President Raul Castro announced in December they would end the 50-year diplomatic freeze. And Obama goes on to mention all of his things. Rubio says the U.S. shouldn't reward Cuba with an ambassador until Havana makes significant political reforms and improves human rights, returns U.S. fugitives living in Cuba, and compensates U.S. citizens and businesses for property seized when Fidel Castro rose to power. President's appeasement of the region's only totalitarian regime has been a complete disaster, Rubio said Tuesday. A U.S. ambassador is not going to influence the Cuban government, which is a dictatorial and closed regime. This nomination should go nowhere. Ambassadors need a simple majority to win Senate confirmation, but senators have traditionally been allowed to impose a hold that can end the confirmation process, or Republican leadership can refuse to schedule a vote. Obama faces a similar battle to fill a Supreme Court vacancy with Merrick Garland, Chief Judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Senator Patrick Leahy, Democrat of Vermont, who attended last year's opening of the embassy, said that De Laurentiis is universally respected by members of both parties and is the obvious choice. We need an ambassador who knows Cuba, who is respected by the Cuban government, and will stand up for the U.S. interests and values. Jeff De Laurentiis is that person. The Cuban people have their ambassador in Washington. The American people need their ambassador in Havana. All right. Let's see what else I've got. All right, this article is a bit long, and I'm not sure it's quite all together. Oh, it is. Alright, I'm going to table this article for the moment. Actually, it's not as long as I thought. This is... Actually, yeah, I will table this one. Sorry, my article. I didn't get a chance to fully sort my articles because, as you know, they just got handed to me while I was on the air. It was a printer malfunction, okay? Alright, so we are going to move on to our favorite friends, North Korea and Iran. The U.S. is helping Iran fund chaos in the Middle East. Would the White House knowingly transfer tens of billions of dollars to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and Hezbollah in Lebanon to finance the slaughter of Syrians or the next war against Israel? In theory, the Iran nuclear deal wasn't supposed to fuel Iran's imperialism and its ardent anti-Semitism, and yet Obama appears to have done that. Have done exactly what he and Secretary Kerry promised not to do. They are directly financing the Syrian horror show and terrorists on American watch lists. Why do I say that? Alright. Well, let's see. We flew... During the nuclear negotiations, and since reaching the agreement with Iran, the administration has strenuously rejected congressional concerns that sanction relief would fund the mullah's malign activities. CIA Director John Brennan said again this July that Iran has used much of the sanctions relief for development projects. The money revenue that's flowed into Iran is being used to support its currency, provide money to departments and agencies to build up its infrastructure. The administration's assurances are undercut by Iran's own behavior. Since July 2015, General Joseph Votel, commander of CENTCOM, U.S. Central Command, said that Iran has become more aggressive in the days since the nuclear agreement. The regime is keeping Bashar al-Assad afloat in Syria and actively supports Lebanese Hezbollah, which has 150,000 rocket stockpile, with only one target, Israel. Tehran has expanded its efforts to create Shia militias in the Middle East and has continued to send aid, including weaponry, to radical Palestinian groups. For all these endeavors, the regime needs money, liquid, untraceable, convertible, and easy to transfer. According to the Global Anti-Money Laundering Financial Task Force, cross-border cash transfers are one of the main methods used to move illicit funds and finance terrorism. The mullahs have been hungry for cash, and after the American and European sanctions drastically curtailed the region's access to hard currency. So then what do? We fly in a plane full of what? Hard currency. I mean, really? Alright. I mean, come on. Alright, this article did not print properly, so the State Department also said that only a cash payment... Yeah, I can't even quite read this. Basically, we were told we couldn't do a wire transfer, but we can. There was a whole convoluted thing on why we had to load the cash onto a plane. We said it wasn't ransom. It was... Come on, Obama. Stop sending money for terrorists. So... And of course, the White House refuses to acknowledge the obvious fact that the nuclear deal has already led the United States to fund terrorist, sectarian warfare, and chaos in the Middle East. So, yeah. What a disaster. Okay. That one at least printed properly. Sorry, I'm having to do this all on air. Alright, got a North Korea story here. U.S. Department of Justice has filed criminal charges against a Chinese executive accusing her and the company she owns and several colleagues of violating American sanctions meant to choke off funding to North Korean companies that help Pyongyang develop nuclear weapons. The executive, Mao Jing-ho, 44, is the owner of Daedong. Not even going to try it. A trading company that in 1 year, according to the United States officials, handled more than 1/5 of the commerce between North Korea and China. She and her colleagues worked with Kwangsong Banking, a North Korean bank that had been subject of American sanctions for years, to set up shell companies in Hong Kong and offshore tax havens to disguise the activity, according to the United States Justice Department in a statement released on Monday. August 3rd, a federal judge in New Jersey signed a sealed indictment against Ms. Mao, her company, and 3 of her colleagues, charges that were made public on Monday. Justice Department officials traveled to Beijing to alert Chinese officials to the activity, and this month the Chinese police opened their own criminal investigation into the company, which is based in Daedong, a Chinese city across the Yalu River from North Korea. Last week, researchers in South Korea and the United States published a report that said that Dangdong exported materials to North Korea, including aluminum oxide, which can be used in the production of nuclear weapons. China is North Korea's largest trading partner. In addition to the criminal charges against Mrs. Ma and her colleagues, the Justice Department is in a separate civil suit is seeking to seize funds in 25 Chinese bank accounts it says were used by Daedong and its fund companies. The shell companies set up by Daedong, stretching from Hong Kong to Seychelles in the Indian Ocean to the British Virgin Islands in the Caribbean, were used to register bank accounts in China, hiding the North Korean origin of the funds and hence engaging in money laundering. In some instances, those banks dealt with American lenders, so-called correspondent banks, to help facilitate dollar-denominated transactions. The United States and Chinese banks involved were not being accused of wrongdoing. But the sanctions announced in 2009 did not prevent Daedong from disguising its business for 7 years. Some of the paperwork that Mrs. Ma and her colleagues filed to set up shell companies is in the Panama Papers. So we will be looking into that. I've been promising to look into it. I just have not had the time. All right. And so we have China helping North Korea. And on that note, I do have an audio clip for you. Let me get it pulled up. Yeah, bad habit. I keep putting my articles on top of my keyboard. All right, let's take a listen. And this was recorded post-debate.
North Korea is one of the poorest and most reclusive countries in the world. But it has some impressive firepower.
향해 소나기처럼 퍼부을 것이다. 인민군이 불시에 불마당질을 시작하면
It conducted 2 nuclear tests in 2016 and 3 others since 2006. Experts guess that it has between 8 and around 20 warheads. The North also has thousands of rockets and artillery pieces aimed at Seoul, the South Korean capital. Its Taepodong 3 missile can put a satellite into orbit and has a range of more than 8,000 miles, enough to reach Los Angeles. And let's remember whom we're dealing with. North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, is a 30-something-year-old Swiss-educated son and grandson of North Korea's only 2 leaders since 1948. He has a reputation for iron-fisted rule and brutality. Reports by Human Rights Watch say he's imprisoned between 80,000 and 120,000 political opponents. He's executed several of his father's most trusted advisors. He blew one to bits with an anti-aircraft gun. And to say North Korea has been belligerent towards its neighbors is an understatement. It admitted to abducting Japanese citizens in the 1970s and 80s and is suspected in the disappearance of hundreds of others since the 1940s. It sunk a South Korean warship in 2010 and fired artillery shells in the south. North Korea often threatens to turn Seoul into a sea of fire. Earlier this year, it vowed to, quote, burn Manhattan down to ashes with a hydrogen bomb. All this might seem crazy, but North Korea watchers say there's a method to Kim Jong-un's madness. His main goal is to preserve his grip on power and prevent a foreign attack. North Korean threats to turn the United States into a fiery wasteland, for example, are always phrased as warnings of what North Korea would do if it were attacked first. China is North Korea's economic lifeline and chief political protector. So why doesn't it keep its hothead neighbor in line and force Kim from power? China wants to prevent a North Korean collapse that could trigger a flood of refugees across its border. And North Korea serves as a useful buffer between China and South Korea, where nearly 30,000 U.S. troops are stationed. Having an ally that's a thorn in the U.S. side serves China's interests.
All right, and to answer Donald Trump's question, that is why China will not get North Korea under control, because China likes the fact that North Korea jerks our chain and drives us crazy. So, next question, Trump? China's never going to solve this issue for you. You just keep thinking that. All right. I have just a couple more stories for you. That's a Syrian article that didn't print right. I'll worry about it later. Alright, this is, it should have been in the earlier section on Syria. Oh, let's do this one instead. This is more... Oh. Alright. Alright. So, can Iran hardliners make Rouhani a one-term president? Oh yeah, now I'm discussing Iranian politics. How's that for a doozy for you guys? I went from the U.S. debate last night to Iranian politics. Come on. How much wonkier can I get for you? I mean, really? All right. It's a familiar political story. The president, hopeful billed as the candidate of prudence and hope, is facing withering criticism. His toughest opponents fear their long-standing grip on key power centers is waning irrevocably. They attack him harshly. We are discussing President Hassan Rouhani. Iran's election may not be for another 8 months, but hardline opponents of President Hassan Rouhani have already marshaled powerful tools to unseat him. They're banking on a convergence of 2 key factors: public dismay over unrealized hopes for economic progress after the landmark nuclear deal, and their own desire for unity to ensure that a man they see as dangerously opening up Iran to the U.S. and the West won't remain in office. How far can Rouhani's conservative rivals go to defeat him, using cash and hardline media to amplify their already loud voices? How big of a challenge do they pose? Supporters argue that they will not prevail. Rouhani has no obvious contenders. Yet the principalist will do everything to defeat Rouhani so he loses the next election. In the next 10 years, the country will change very much. The leadership are old men. Some may pass away, and no one knows what may happen. So it's very important for both sides because this election will change the environment for the next decade. Conservatives' traction with some constituencies was on full display midsummer when Rouhani grew frustrated as he tried to address a crowd over the voice of protesters in Kashmir in northwest Iran. Problems cannot be done away with slogans. Cannot be resolved with poems. Still, despite the array of tools at their disposal, Iran's principles face their own limits. The nuclear deal of 2015 was struck with tacit support of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei. As a consummate insider since the first days of Iran's Islamic Revolution, 1979 revolution, Rouhani enjoys far closer ties and level of trust with Mr. Khomeini than Iran's previous presidents. The common word for principalist is engineering. They want to engineer anything and everything, says an Iranian analyst who asked not to be named. They want to punch above their weight, and that's what they are doing. Alright, so yes, Iran is having their own elections in 8 months. I've got one more story. Alright, just one more real quick, and then I gotta get out of the way for the Jen and Rick show. Alright. The UK opened secret files about Jewish terrorists in the 1940s. Yes, they recently declassified a document released. It's a recently declassified document by British Security Service that was made available on Wednesday, September 28th, about Jewish terrorists in the 1940s. Alright, let's get to the heart of this. It is clear from the files that British were particularly rattled by the constant threat of attack and fears of violence would spread from the Middle East to Europe, particularly to Britain itself. In a July 20th, 1946 letter from Lieutenant Colonel Maurice Alfield to military headquarters warns that 2 people on the Jewish terrorist list seemed to infiltrated Paris via an Air France flight. Okay, infiltrated and Air France flight don't seem to go together, but hey. There was a specific warning from British intelligence to Belgian authorities about 5 individuals planning a mission. There are also exchanges between British intelligence and the FBI about activities of Jewish commandos in New York. What is the interesting last line of this paragraph? Last couple of lines. Many attacks were relatively minor, involving small arms, fire grenades, improvised explosives, and landmines, but the campaign clearly made it hard for the British to conduct normal business without adding layers of protection. Some of the militants went on to become influential figures, including future Israeli Prime Ministers Menachem Begin, who would sign the landmark Camp David peace accords, and Yitzhak Shamir. Alright, so, on that note, you know what's coming. I'm out of here!